out that there's a widespread misunderstanding. Okay, now another teaching that's more relevant to Serenity Shabbat. When you read the Haftarah and you see God saying, I love you, it's not unusual for the anonymous prophet of the exile to say, you're in exile and life is difficult, but it's not like God has forgotten you and God loves you. How could God forget, the plaything that he dandled or they dandled on their knee? How could they forget the love of their youth? All of these different metaphors. And for most people, that is a very difficult theology. It still sounds like the theology of the God who abandons you when you need them, right? The God who's like, I still love you. Sorry you're in exile and sorry it's so bad. I believe in your future. That doesn't feel close and it doesn't feel good. But I wonder if it's a theology well understood by those who attend meetings of Al-Anon. I want to be too clever and say, maybe this is El-Anon. Right, okay, that's another Hebrew joke. Okay, that Al-Anon are meetings for those who are trying to support those who suffer from addiction. And most of us probably should be in it because probably all of us have a relative or family member or close friend who's actually addicted, but we don't get involved for various reasons. Most, as I said, on High Holy Days, that they keep us out. But how Al-Anon teaches you not to become codependent, that you are there in love and that you want to support when the supporting is helpful. But sometimes rushing in to save from the consequences of people's actions is not the right thing to do. Because if people don't look, there has to be a combination of people finding their way out from the pit themselves so they know they did it themselves and the support of those who love them. And there's no easy formula for it. I can't just say, yeah, abandon them, that's love too. Or run in and rush in every night when they call and say, pick me up from the bar so I don't drive home, or whatever it is. Come to the hospital. Do you have money so I can get rehab? So that there's no clear delineation. And I think there's no delineation in the theology of so many of these haftarot, which is, I love you, I'm there for you, I'm not gone. And there will be times that I am there for you along the way. But you got yourself here. And unless you yourselves go toward the future that I'm supporting you toward, you will never truly achieve it.
Righteousness flow like a mighty stream. Let God's peace fill the earth as the waters fill the sea, and let us say, Amen.
Amen. We may be seated. Shabbat Shalom. I kind of love it when harmless mistakes happen in life because I try to take them as signs. So part of what we were giggling about on the Bima is that the Torah went around the wrong way the first time, and then we were trying to figure out, should it go around the wrong way again, which is the right way now, or is it still? And I said no, and I stopped it, and I was like, I wanted to go anyway. And I feel like it's a metaphor for the parasha, right? I feel it's a metaphor maybe even for recovery, which is sometimes you have to go the entirely wrong way. I'm serious. You're like, oh, the hook is coming, from that direction. Sometimes you have to go the wrong way to be on the right path. I mean, that's the truth of the matter, and we know it. So it was a beautiful way to go today. I have a question for you to think about. I'm going to answer it my way. Is the end of the Noach story a happy ending? I mean, every time I see a rainbow, I'm like, rainbow. It's the happy ending to the Noach story. Is it a happy ending? Is this a happy story? Yeah, God won't murder us all again, at least not all at once. That was a wonderful story. And I'm not being dismissive of Torah. I want to bring out what is in the Torah that maybe we miss. I'm going to go back one step to go 2 steps forward. When we read Kohelet at Shemini Atzeret, I sat in the other room with some folks, and we read through passages of it after services. We talked about how we felt about it. And one of the things that came out of that was a motif that occurred in the recovery teaching during Rosh Hashanah, which is that is, as we sometimes feel when we read the Torah and the prophets, that history is a linear line of progress. We're heading toward the messianic world. We should be very proud of each step we've taken. And we're heading in the right direction. We should feel good about that. Or as Kohelet says, Ecclesiastes, is you think you made progress. There's no such thing as progress. There's nothing new under the sun. Any good idea you ever had, it's been had. And people thought it would change things and maybe change things temporarily. And then things went back to the way they were. So time is not a progress. Time is cyclical. And people just don't realize it. And what does it mean to live within a cyclical reality? And as I tried to express after many years of struggling or reading or learning or being bonaich, being a learner, a child who's also a learner of Torah, I think the Jewish description is, I see it as, and maybe this comes from Yeats, William Butler Yeats, I see it as a spiral. And it's not even like a perfect spiral heading in the right direction. There's a lot of cyclicality and there's a lot of moving backward, but you can't let it get you down, because in every time you go the wrong way, you go backward. You're not back where you started because you've learned something. And so that, yes, it is crushing. It's absolutely crushing, oh yeah, we had all this plastic and it's so great. Now we're just going to recycle it. And then, yeah, Greenpeace tells us last week the truth, which most of us already knew. Only 5% of plastic is recycled. So the rest of it either ends up in the ocean or in landfills or increasingly burned in developing countries that get paid to take it and then burn it by poor people living in poor villages and poisoning their kids. So, wow, all that good recycling did, all that effort, there's nothing new under the sun, I give up. Right? That's Kohelet. And you can't really believe everything is like progress, progress, progress. Anyone who's studied American history realizes that if there was a triumphalism, then it was mistaken if it incorporated that we're always making progress. We clearly go backwards. So what is the truth? A spiral. Yeah, it's a spiral when it comes to the environment, right? Anyone who wants to put down the fact that I spent my 70s doing rallies on the Earth and Earth Day and raising issues and starting different things, it's not fair to those of us who did that work. It's not fair. Yes, things with women's rights there's so many backslidings with it. It's awful. It doesn't defeat the good work that was done by so many in this country over different generations. So what happens is, we are a country rife with racial bias and systemic racism, but that doesn't mean that those soldiers who fought in the Civil War and died weren't dying for something that was being articulated by people like Lincoln, which taught us something. And yes, Reconstruction went backward afterward, but then it went forward. And so that what life is you go backward, but what you have to remember is when you go backward, you've learned something. Someone shared with me yesterday, I won't say who it is, regular attendee of services, that though that message, which was heard in the recovery sermon on Rosh Hashanah as well, is one that resonates for those who have mental health care challenges, right? Am I doomed because I have an anxiety disorder? Am I doomed because I have mental health challenges? And what is a saving grace is every time maybe I come out of inpatient or I finish with outpatient, the progress I made in the past is not lost. I can go back to it and I've learned something new. So now let's go to God. What does this have to do with the parsha? I would say that flooding the earth and killing all the living things except for the things on the ark, I would say that's a little bit like hitting rock bottom. It's an act of a person who says, my life is the life that I've created is not redeemable. And so I'm just going to destroy it. And God has this idea, I think, of linear progress. I made the human being and it was very good. And if they grow up and mature, they'll still make good decisions, but they don't. But they still won't be murderers, but Cain kills Havel. And then God says to Cain, listen, let me make you bina. Let me give you understanding. Some days will be good. Some days will be bad. You don't kill people because of the bad days. Taken care of. And Cain's like, no, I didn't learn anything. And then we get Hamas and corruption of the earth. We're spoiling the earth environmentally. We're killing each other. And as God says at the end here in Genesis 8, verse 21, the happy ending is, never will I again doom the earth because of humankind, since humans have Yetzer Hara from their very youth. Their very origin is that they have cravings, gluttonous desires, selfish inclinations. And so I won't doom the earth again because that's just the way human beings are. And nor will I ever destroy every living being as I have done. And then, so is God saying, God could easily at this point say, I messed up. This idea that I could breed the kind of best example of a human being and get more good people, the idea that I could teach bad people like Cain and they'll be like, I get it now, that's not working. So instead, God could just stop. There could just be no beginning to humanity. God could stop with this universe and just say it's polluted with sin. Because the Yetzer Hara becomes original sin in Christian thought, not the word hate, which is our word for sin. It's this term that becomes synonymous in the early church with original sin, Yetzer Hara. It's inevitable that we will be corrupt. God messed up, and I'm just going to end the creation. But instead, God seems to say, like, I'm learning. I'm learning each step of the way. I learned at Eden. I learned with Cain and Havel. I'm learning now. And I'm making a rainbow saying, I won't wipe it out. I'm going to work with what I got. I thought I could just start over and it would be fine. And it's no better than it was before. And not only that, but I realized that the broken part of it all, this Yetzer Hara, the selfish inclination, that it's not a death sentence for the human race. It doesn't spoil creation. It doesn't have to. And then God devises a new plan, which we see for the rest of Genesis, which is, I'm going to have to do something very different with these people. And what I'm going to have to do is probably pick like one family and then like form a covenant with them and then have them start a tribe and get them to act a little bit differently and then hope they can hold that together and then let them experience trials and tribulations with those new values and ideas and see if that forms. And we're going to go from there. And they're probably going to end up being in slavery because if they're never oppressed, they're never going to have compassion. And then God has this a different kind of covenant, not the unilateral covenant of I made you good, you have to be good, or the unilateral covenant here, which is I just won't destroy anything else, has nothing to do with you, but I won't destroy you all again. But these kinds of mutual covenants of mutual interaction. And God's saying, you're not broken, but you have a piece that's broken. I'm not broken because I made you and I thought you were very good and it's a big failure. It's going to be a work in progress. The person who comes out, who is in recovery, knows this all too well. When they lapse, when they go back, they're not empty again. They have what they've learned to fall back on. They have each step that they've taken before is still a step in the spiral moving forward. It's interesting that my father used to teach about this parasha, that here we have the Yetzer Hara expresses itself with drink and intoxication and then incest. And so there's kind of a blackout period of Noah, the most righteous person of his generation. And the rabbis say, my father taught, that when you look upon the nakedness of a parent, a curse is upon you. And that he would teach that when you look upon promiscuity, when you look upon a person who is blackout drunk, there are things that you can't unsee. And here in our society, we're surrounded by it. We glamorize alcohol, it's all around. We see it at college, it's glamorized in many ways, it's glamorized on TV, and we glamorize promiscuity. So that we are all in the state, in a way, of having a curse upon us because we can't unsee what is not only all around us, but is glamorized. So what life is not trying to return to the innocence of Garden of Eden. It's trying to live with what we got. How do we have, anyone who has ever been hugged by a parent when they're a child, and their parent's been drinking, and they're hugged a little too hard knows what can never be unfelt. Anybody who went to a parent who said, I need help with my homework, or I need help because I'm having a problem with a friend, and they were asleep on the couch, that can never be unexperienced. And aren't we all in that state on some level, whether it's with our own addictions or with our society? We can't unsee and unfeel what's around us. But what we can do is, instead of seeing ourselves as irredeemably broken, seeing ourselves as having parts of ourselves and parts around us that are constantly, as Melville said in Moby Dick, constantly in need of mending. And can we, like God, view, instead of giving up, seeing that every move backward is an opportunity to take a step forward? Shabbat Shalom. Musaf continues on page 184, beginning with the Chatzi Kaddish.